Welcome into the Fantasy Advantage, where I give you the advantage in fantasy football. Now, I already did my rank 1 through 10 for wide receivers, so this is just the continuation through 11 through 20. And because of that, I'm just going to get straight to brass tacks here and just cut right into it. So, at number 11, I've got Rashee Rice. Now, I really love Rashee Rice this year. In the first 3 weeks last year, before he tore his ACL, he scored the second most PPR points at 64.9, which comes to about 21.6 a game. He had 24 receptions and 2 touchdowns in those games, and he was on the field for 74% of the snaps, at least in all of those games. It's also very clear that he's Mahomes' go-to guy, and in an Andy Reid offense that has supported 290-point seasons for Hill and Kelsey in the same year, I think he's a home run hit. My only drawback that keeps him from being in the top 10 is having Kelsey still there, Hollywood being fully healthy, and Worthy getting manufactured plays, on top of them having Pacheco healthy again, and they really like the running back there, Brashad. I don't think he's going to get quite the full workload that you want out of like your top 10 receiver. But with all those mouths to feed there, I do think he is Mahomes, still Mahomes' like favorite receiver to throw to. I'm confident in his rank here, and you can get him in the late 4th to early 5th at wide receiver 20, and that feels like a really, really good discount going into this season, especially him being wide receiver 1 in that offense. So yeah, definitely my guy at 11. At number 12, I've got a guy that may be fairly surprising here, but it's Davante Adams. Now, I know there's going to be pushback, and I got to be honest, I don't really care. He demands way too many targets because he simply just gets open all the time. And Puka is great, and I do have him ranked higher than Adams, of course. But in all honesty, I could probably see Adams ending the season even higher than my boy Pookie. He's got the skill set for it. They're both going to eat in the Stafford offense, and at 32 years old, Adams, I mean, honestly, he still has it, man. His 28.7% target share and over 19 points a game for the last 5 seasons is number 1 in the league. You can get him at wide receiver 19, which is just before Rashee Rice in drafts, which I think they're both pretty similar. I do believe Rashee has the edge, which is why I have him over Davante. But honestly, getting Adams in that 4th to 5th round, you can beef up your RB room and get like a top end wide receiver in those first 3 rounds, and then have Adams as your wide receiver 2. And honestly, I think you're building like a winning roster that way. I've found myself honestly doing it quite a lot in mocks, and I can't get enough of Adams. I think he's someone who I could see being a wide receiver 1 in fantasy this year. Not the wide receiver 1, but a wide receiver 1. Now, moving on to the 13th guy. I think this dude's getting completely underrated. It's Chris Godwin. I was dead wrong about him last year. I was saying that I don't really see it. I don't know why people love him so much. And honestly, he just shut my stupid mouth up. He was on a career run before he got hurt. He was moved back into the slot last year and was the second best at points per game in 7 games with 19.7. He can only play he can play on the outside as well. So he gets the benefit of having good production off both spots. He just really does do well in the slot. Now, I have him down at the 13 because he might take a couple weeks to either play or kind of get back into his flow. And Igbuka coming into the league and being primarily a slot guy in college, I do think that's going to take some effect on the slot reps that Godwin succeeded so well in last year. And McMillan also being a slot guy in college, and he'll still get some reps and some plays as well. So I don't think he's going to have as many plays in the slot, which will hinder his total ceiling. I do think those points will kind of come down a little bit this year. And Liam Cohen also not being there, the slot guru, I think will temper his total. But I do think that they saw what he was doing from the slot last year, and they will try to keep getting him in there as much as possible, and that will keep his floor pretty high. And with Baker throwing him the ball, I think wide receiver 13 it's a pretty good spot for him. That feels really, really perfect, honestly. I think it feels really perfect. Next guy I want to talk about is my boy T. Higgins. Now, this rank at 14, it's solely based on a full bill of health throughout the season. And I know that Chase is on the other side of the field, but when T is playing, he's still amazing. Higgins scored the 6th most fantasy points per game by a wide receiver last year. And thanks to higher routes per game than past seasons at 37.1 and higher target rate at 23.1%, his floor has been boosted even more than it was before. And the Bengals last year did run a ridiculous amount of plays when they were within 3 yards of scoring, which was 54. The only other team to have gone above 45 since PFF was the thing was the 2012 New England Patriots with 49. And that stat will definitely go down a little bit. But because the defense looks like it's potentially going to be worse this year with all the stuff going on with like Hendrickson and what's his name there, Shamar Stewart, I think Burrow's going to have to do a whole lot of passing again this year. That's going to boost T so much as long as, of course, he's healthy. He did score quite a bit of touchdowns for the not full season of play that he had last year, and I know a lot of people assume that that's going to regress, but given that this is a full season's worth of games that I'm ranking him in, I think if he's playing them all, even if there aren't that like many condensed touchdowns through his games, I think it still evens out over the full season, and he might even get a couple more. So honestly, 14, I don't think you can put T any lower than this with a full healthy season. So this next guy here, he's the guy who's getting my dog of the list here, or the video. Like I said, I'm trying to do that now. The new kid on the block, he's winning over a lot of fantasy hearts. It's Lad Ain't Bad McConkey. He burst onto the scene last season, especially in the last 7 regular season games and the playoff game, which I normally don't count, but for rookies to have the kind of usage he had in a playoff game, I think that's a big testament to what his coaches and the offensive staff expect from him and see. Like they wanted him on the field. They wanted to throw him the ball. They know that they've got a stud on the team. Now, in those games, like I was talking about, he averaged 20.7 points a game, which is insane for a rookie. That's just gaudy numbers. A lot of people look at him also as like a slot dude who just exposes zone coverage and things like that. But he was actually very diffy, bro. He had a 2.98 yards per route run against man coverage, and that was second in the league. So this guy can do all of it, whether it's zone or man. He can win against whoever's going up against him. He isn't higher than 15. That's because LA did draft Hampton and Najee, or they drafted Hampton and signed Najee, and Greg Roman has had the fewest or second fewest targets to wide receivers in the last 3 years as an OC, and that is definitely going to hurt the ceiling that his ceiling. He can't get, to me, much higher than what last year. I think he was the wide receiver 13 or so. Like, I think that's it. I don't think you're going to get much more than that because of the offensive situation. It's got nothing to do with his skill. Again, I'm not dissing anybody. I'm really not dissing too many people on the list. I'm just giving my realistic reasons as to why I don't think that they can go much higher than the rank that I have them at. So it's going to keep his production at a limit. So 15 is where I feel best about him. Now, this next guy, I don't really know how to feel about him, and just trying to be as transparent as I can because I want to give you my most honest opinions. I really don't know where I like this dude, but I can't see him being any lower than this, and it's JSN. Now, I do feel like it's a little too low, but sort of at the same time, it feels like maybe it is just right, which is why I'm not guaranteed on this spot. It kind of, I think after the first couple weeks, you'll be able to tell where he's going, depending on his, target share and production. But a new QB, Cooper Kupp being on the team, Fant has been getting a lot more involved in the offense, and those are all things that definitely put a cap on his overall potential for the year. It's nothing to do with his skill set at all. According to Next Gen Stats, he had a 3.3 average yards of separation on his routes, which was tied with Puka and ahead of guys like Adams, Godwin, Hill, and McConkey. So it's not like he can't get separation. He also works the slot very well, and that's where they like him, although I do think Kupp is going to take some of those now. So that's a part of what draws me back on his overall rank for the year. He did have 15 targets in the red zone, which was 44% of their red zone targets, and he got 5 touchdowns out of them. So I think if they still use him in the red zone fairly often, that it can keep his floor high enough to stay around this 16 area for, wide receivers on the season. And I think if everything were to kind of fall into place for him, and let's say him and Sam Darnold just click really well and things start popping for him, I don't think he can do much worse than where he's at for my rank now, but that could boost him up, a little closer to, the top 12, top 10. I think a lot of it is really just like question marks on what exactly is that offense going to look like. I also think a full healthy season of Ken Walker could put a little bit of a damper on his overall production as well. But yeah, 16 is where I like him. Now 17, if you've probably noticed, I haven't talked about this guy yet, and I think a lot of people by now would have. It's Tyreek Hill. I get that he is a candidate to come back and be great this year, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of faith in Tua's health. That's a big proponent on Hill's success, along with the offense as a whole. It really kind of goes through Tua being on the field. And Achane and Jonnu and Waddle, they're all there eating up targets that could go to him. And that's definitely going to be a little bit of a problem, as we could see it being this last year. It also feels like he's losing a little bit of that magic with his age starting to get up there. We kind of don't know what to expect with him. We know what he's been, but last year, I don't think it was just a wrist thing. If you look at it, he had a lower separation rate in single coverage, a lower deep target rate, and a higher contested target rate, which means he's not getting enough separation from people. Contested targets aren't always a good thing. All of this is suggesting that there might just be some more problems than his wrist. He built his career on speed and separation, and if he doesn't have that like he did, then that would explain a lot of what was going on in 2024, and that could be a really bad omen for things to come in this next year or two, which could lead me to believe he might hang it up. I remember a couple years ago he said he wanted to play until 2025, and then he wanted to retire and go into, I believe it was it was gaming, like streaming and stuff. He wants to create his own like organization and like stream thing or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like he's a guy who could just, if things aren't going his way halfway through the year, he might just start giving up. But not that I'm saying he will. I'm not taking a shot at him or anything. It's just things that I've been thinking about a lot lately with him, and it's really making me worried about Hill. I don't want to buy him in drafts. Like, if we're talking super a lot later than normal, then sure, I would take my shot on him, but I don't want him as my wide receiver 1, maybe my wide receiver 2. He would be great for flex, but it all depends on how you build your team. Okay, so number 18. As much as I love this dude, and I think that he does have a good skill set, it's hard for me to imagine him being any higher than 18. It's Garrett Wilson. First and foremost, as anyone should know, he's on the Jets. So that's just going to hurt anybody. It's not good news for anyone, especially now that they have a defensive-minded head coach. Justin Fields being his QB also doesn't do him a lot of favors. He holds onto the ball a little bit too long, takes a lot of sacks, and he does scramble a lot. He's also not the most accurate passer. On the plus side, though, things that I do like for Wilson is, and what keeps him in my top 20, is he did have 23 red zone targets last year and only 11 catches. Now, if those kind of meet each other, he still gets around like 20 targets, and the catches, the receptions improve. I do think that's actually puts a good boost in his points and his floor. And him and Fields were college teammates, and they're pretty good buddies. So there could be a connection that also like saves his floor and gets him some more points that normally wouldn't happen if it was like a different quarterback. Adams also not being there really helps. He was averaging 17.4 PPR points a game last year before Adams was there, and then there was 2 games with Adams there before he was like kind of settled into the offense. And after that, it was 11.8. So that's a pretty drastic change. He still ended up wide receiver 10, 11. But I think it was all boosted from that like the first 9 games before Adams and Rodgers really started connecting again. So yeah, the 18 spot, it feels, if there's any spot that feels like perfect, honestly, I think it's Garrett Wilson. This is probably exactly where he ends up, in my opinion. Now, 19, this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I think people need to come to reality with what's happening with this player and the offense he's on. It's A.J. Brown. Now, his PFF grade of 92.7 over the last couple of seasons, which was only second to Hill, is really great, but it didn't pay off as much last year. He scored an average of 16 points a game, which really isn't terrible, of course, but it's a point less than the year before. And in 2023, he went from he was running 34 routes a game, and last year he was at 28 routes a game, which is obviously a change because of Saquon. And Saquon didn't leave, so I really don't see that changing a whole lot. And he's got Smitty on the other side, who at any given point can really demand a lot of targets because he's very good, gets open, can catch those contested catches. There's competition, and what's his face? Goddard. He's healthy now. He's gonna be back and healthy. So there is mouths to feed on the offense, and they're a lower throwing offense because of the run game. So he's not gonna get with the lower routes and not as many passing work to go around. It's definitely hindering him a lot. So he also had about 6 games where he was held to less than 50 yards. And shockingly, this one actually surprised me a lot, was he was 37th in the league with red zone targets at 11. Devontae Smith played the same amount of games as him. They both played 13, but he had more. And the tush push really kills the opportunity for more. It changes, there's no AJ Brown's a big dude. He can get some of those red zone touchdowns and they just go away when they're close because it's either Saquon or the tush push, Also, he had the third lowest of the entire league of receivers, the third lowest separation last year, according to PFF, with about 2 yards. That's also not good. Now, he's a big dude. He wins a lot of contested catches, but I want my guy to be getting a little separation and getting like the higher percentage throws. So, yeah, I with all of this information that I kind of came across, surprisingly, I have a very hard time putting him higher than 19. Now, this last guy, I almost had a couple other guys. I was sort of juggling like 3 or 4 guys in this spot. And then I realized, wait a minute, I wasn't even thinking of this dude. It's Jamaal Williams. Now, I know there's a huge hype train going for him, and I see why. I do, but I think that we might be getting a little carried away. He's not a bad player, but don't get me wrong. I mean, I think if he's a wide receiver 1 on a different team, then you could probably put him up at least in the top 15. I just believe because of his situation, it's so hard to put him much higher than this. I can see him ending the season a little higher, but it's very hard for me to feel like he will over the other guys that I have in front of him. He averaged 8.4 yards after the catch, which was first among receivers, and that's really awesome. And it definitely is a good stat that, like, it's a good indicator of something that could push him into the top 20 because yards after catch is a big deal. I mean, look at CeeDee Lamb, right? But Amon-Ra is the first target in that offense, and he's going to be the first target in that offense. That's not going to change, especially with the offensive production that they get when they throw the ball to Amon-Ra. And he overshadows Williams, especially in that red zone. Jamo had 11 red zone targets compared to 31, which I went over in the last video for Amon-Ra. And Jamo also has to share targets as a whole with Laporta, Gibbs, and Monty even get some throws. So he's got a lot of competition, a lot of mouths to feed. Amon-Ra just owning the red zone. It's hard to think that he can get like that extra stuff, especially the red zone, to bump him up a little higher. On top of all of this too, Detroit's defense will be so much healthier, and when everyone's on the field, their defense is actually very good. They have a very good defensive unit, and I do think that will change the way that the offense plays. They won't have to push the ball down the field so much, and the RBs like Gibbs and Monty, they're going to get a little bit more work that way. They'll be able to kind of use time of possession, kind of move the clock. They won't have to be chucking the ball down the field trying to catch up or stay in a lot of games this year. Amon-Ra will also get a lot of the like dink and dunky stuff when they don't have to try to shoot for the moon, right? So yeah, I do think that all of that puts a little bit of a wet blanket on the Jamaal Williams hype. But if Amon-Ra goes down, he's a league winner, 100% a league winner. Not that I'm hoping for that. I love Amon-Ra. If something were to happen or there was just some crazy change in the way the offense is working, then yeah, he could go higher. But I just don't see Amon-Ra being behind him. So yeah, I wanted to go over just a couple quick honorable mentions. Marv Harrison, Josh Downs, Devonta Smith, George Pickens, and Mike Evans. Marv, I'm just going to do this really quick. Marv just needs his OC Petzing to use him a little better, and I think he can shoot up the ranks for sure. Devonta Smith is a guy. He's always a candidate for a good year. He's a great receiver. Could be a 1 on a lot of teams. So, yeah, you can expect good things out of him. Always potentially up in the top 20. Josh Downs, possibly the best value in drafts right now because he's really awesome, and I think I'm gonna do another video on him to kind of bring up a couple of great values, but that's for the future. George Pickens in the best situation of his career. He's got Dak and Lamb, so he's gonna have better passes to him, and he's going to have somebody across the field that will help take some pressure off of him and get him open a little more. And Mike Evans, normally a lock for 1,000 yards, but I do think this is the year that could fall off with Godwin and Igbuka being in the way. And Bucky Irving popping off last year, and he's definitely going to be involved in the offense more. So, but if Evans has, a similar year to the last few, then yeah, he's somebody that could very easily pop into this top 20, especially with a few injuries. So yeah, that is the top 20 of my wide receiver ranks for 2025 being rounded out. Thank you for watching both. My last video got a lot of attention, and I'm super happy. It makes me feel very good, and I very much appreciate everybody that stops by. Please leave a comment, subscribe, like, interact. That's my favorite part, man. I want to interact with you guys. You can follow my Twitter. I'm going to put it down in the description. I'm also doing a way too early redraft league with some people, just trying to get some people in. So shoot a comment down below. Tell me your favorite guy that I didn't mention or should be higher, and I'll put your name in a hat and pick you out for whoever does this and put you in for my league. So I'll do like a random draw and see who can come in the league with me if you guys want to. So yeah, I'm droning on, sorry. So thank you, appreciate everything. My next video, I believe, is going to be, I'm going to do quarterbacks. So yeah, stay tuned, and thank you for watching.